Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Elvolve podcast where we have interesting and insightful conversations. I am joined by the coolest person in Santa Teresa, literally the vibiest man I know on the planet. His name's Graham. Graham's here to have a conversation with us and it's going to be interesting and insightful.
I hope. Thank you so much for that introduction, Ellie.
Thank you. So Graham is like seriously the best person in the world, and whenever he greets someone or introduces you to someone, he does the most insane introductions. And I was like trying to like really off the cuff do my best version of that, and I don't think I definitely didn't live up to your standard of intro, in my opinion.
One of my favorites is the world famous Ellie Miles. Which I firmly believe is true.
Thanks, Greg.
World famous Ellie Miles.
If you're seeing like a shorts right now, Graham has pink nails. He's got a pink watch on his left wrist. He's got a pink linen shirt unbuttoned with beautiful pink pearls around his neck. He's seriously like the vibiest person you could possibly meet. Like if you guys... Once you listen to this, you're going to be like, wow, this guy is a cool dude, and you're definitely going to want to check him out on Instagram as well. So I'll make sure that I tag him in the show notes so that you can do so. But yay, I'm so happy you're here, and I'm so happy that we're finally doing this.
Me too, Ellie. Honestly, I love your work and your aesthetic and your contribution to the world, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be sitting here with you, really.
Yay. So today... we're going to have I think it's a pretty important conversation. I think lots of people are going to relate to it. And we're going to kind of talk about sobriety, because for me personally, my journey with sobriety started after my first ayahuasca journey. That's when things kind of started to shift for me. I was like, oh, I couldn't imagine having a drink now. And I did for about a year. I had like a bit of a old Ellie and new Ellie totally battling it out. And now I've been sober for over 2 years and it's been awesome, and definitely one of the best decisions that I've made for myself personally. And so, I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey with sobriety, and I think we're also going to touch on themes of addiction as well throughout this chat, and I'm super curious to hear a little bit more about you and your life and how things kind of kicked off.
Sure. So I think that kind of to think about it chronologically is how I often tell the slightly longer form story of substance, the role of substance and addiction in my life. And so I think that, it was like the cool thing to do where I was growing up, to just be kind of like smoking weed and drinking from probably about like 12 years old. And I think at that time, a lot of it was about fitting in. So my last name is Weiner, which is a name that in elementary school is, and middle school and high school is a pretty guaranteed way to get made fun of a little bit. Aww. And I was just a bit of a different kid in general. I was like glasses from the fourth, like I got glasses probably when in fourth grade. I had long hair. I was not like overweight, but I was like, teased for being chubby and was a little overweight, and, like prescription acne medication, middle school and high school. And then I also wore a back brace for 2 years. What? And I was just, I like broke my back snowboarding and had to wear this back brace that was on the outside of a shirt. And I would have to wear it like summer camp, playing lacrosse, like for basically 2 years. And so I was just like, a bit bullied. Bullied is like a pretty core trauma for me that I've done a lot of work on, but I think that a lot of our traumas, I think that traumas are always there to a certain extent. And so we have the bullying. And so I think like smoking weed and drinking was just a way to fit in a little bit, kind of like be cool, reduce some of the noise in social situations, and just kind of feel cool, really. I think as I got older, I noticed that it increased confidence with women, which was like something that was very helpful to me at that time. And I really stuck with that until I was probably about 16 or 17, and then started doing like hard drugs at that point. And that took me, went to university, was playing lacrosse on a scholarship in college, and still abusing substances at that time. And it just like my life was okay, from the outside, and it was relatively socially acceptable, and it was probably like consistent with how most of my friends were partying at that time. And I think like long story short, basically it just the substances kind of like one would stop working, so I would switch over to a different hard drug, and then after a couple years of doing that, it would start to produce bad results, and so I would switch over to another one, and there was basically none left to do. And I finally started, after living here for a few years, and like running out of drugs to do, basically, I just had enough negative stimulus where the people around me like decided that I should have an intervention and go to rehab. And I thought it was a great idea, and I loved rehab, and I wish I could go back once a year. And it's been amazing. So it's been about 3.5 years of sobriety, and that is the story of me and addiction, at least.
Wow.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, I want to take it back a little bit. Like, the people that you were trying to fit in with, like when you were kind of like 12, 13, 14, like those early years in high school, like were they all smoking weed and drinking alcohol and stuff? Like, did it get you the sense of belonging? Like, were they more accepting of you because you were doing those things at that age?
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I probably had some friends that were not doing those things, but I had this idea that I wanted to be part of the group of kids that were doing those things.
Interesting. My sister got me drunk when I was 11. I was 11 or 12, so I totally get it. But isn't it weird kind of like looking back on life, looking back at that little kid, like literally a child, and being like, for me anyway, I look back and I look at little Ellie that got drunk when she was 13, and I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, it kind of blows my mind a little bit. And when I think about having kids myself, having young teenagers, I just be like, oh my gosh, please don't do what I did to my brain to your brain,
Yeah, I get what you mean. I don't tell people not to do drugs and drink, and I don't really regret it for myself either. Like, when people reach out that are struggling with addiction and want help with substance abuse, and now that's become also like people who reach out about codependency and a lot of other things that a certain like 12-step program covers. There's really a lot of things in that category, but I help people with their addictions now, and otherwise I don't really have a firm stance like people should be doing something or not be doing something. And I think everyone has their own journey. I think for me, it was those things were necessary at the time to get to where I am now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's hard to say what is right or wrong for someone's journey.
Yeah, I can make sense of what you're saying. It sounds like you kind of look back at past versions of yourself and you're like, hey, you were just doing the best that you could at the time, and I accept you. Like, that's kind of how the way you were speaking to that, I guess, translated to me at least. It's like no regrets.
Yeah. No regrets. I never think of it with that language, but as far as the no regrets part, but yeah, I don't regret it. I do think I was doing the best, that I could, and I accept it. Like, with the tools that I had at the time. And I think that the experiences and perspectives and kind of the identities that went along with each kind of chapter of my substance abuse career were like necessary for me to advance to the next stage. And then that stage eventually for me was just sobriety and all the things that come with, regular adult life.
What have some of the, I guess, improvements been in your life that you've noticed since you've become sober?
Right. So everything is a lot better for me. I have probably gained about 40 pounds, probably of all muscle. As cliche as that sounds, it's really actually true. I think that emotionally, I'm able to grow in each of the realms of health. So to my understanding, the realms of health are like physical health, social health, emotional health, mental health, and then the most important one for me is spiritual health. And so there's significantly better health across all of those. And then there's also the ability to actually legitimately kind of grow within each of those. Because for me, like when substances was part of the picture, they were just a very influential, a very influential part of my life. And so if something bad would happen or if something good would happen, they would be part of the picture. And so those experiences that were happening, growth experiences, whether from negative or positive stimulus, were still being kind of muted, and lessons were not really being learned. Things just weren't being kind of like stored and integrated properly because because I wasn't really entirely there, or there was a version of me there that was with the inclusion of, very powerful substances.
When you were in that stage of your life and you were actively like taking drugs, it's almost like you were dissociated or disconnected in a way. You weren't actually like fully clear and fully absorbing life.
There's certain types of hard drugs that are like disassociatives, and then there's stimulants and there's painkillers and all these different things. And so some of them were very like specifically disassociative, and in other cases, I might have been hyperstimulated or kind of like numb. Energetically, I think all different, different substances do different things, including alcohol, including, weed and all of them really. And so they each had like a contributing role to my energy and my consciousness at that time. And I was kind of had different chapters with different ones. And so with sobriety, there's also a lot more consistency and a lot more fluidity between things that are happening. And so there's been I feel like I've grown a lot over the last 3.5 years of sobriety. And there's still chapters within it where my energy has dominant themes, but at least that's kind of like internal, and also reflective of my relationship with a higher power. So in my case, I'm thinking about that as, I like to refer to that as God. And so there's dominant themes that I, with the way I talk to myself and the way that I behave throughout the day and stuff, but those things are being, remembered and are contributing to the, to a more like holistic and comprehensive way that I, engage with myself and the world, and God.
Yeah. Now that you have, I guess, really embraced sobriety, is there a chance you'd ever go back?
There is definitely not a chance that I would ever go back.
I did not know what you were going to say there. I was like,
really?
is he going to say there's definitely a chance I would? I didn't know.
Yeah, no, there's no way that I would. there's so many things I enjoy now. I never think about it. A lot of my friends still do hard drugs. I still go out partying. I, do all-nighters and stuff. And I, am around drugs, and it just is never tempting. I never think about it. I don't think, ooh, that's gross. I also don't think, oh, that would be nice. It just, it's important for me, like, not to be judgmental. There's something can creep in where it's like, I'm better because I don't, and I definitely, try to stay on top of myself with that one, but it doesn't require much like discipline or anything. Actually, it just feels so good to be sober. So it just never really crosses my mind at all.
I was just, as you were saying that and something you were saying before, I was kind of reflecting on the timelines of different stages of my life and this chapter of sobriety, like when that began. And I guess it's been the catalyst for a lot of like transformation and inner work and growth. Yeah, a lot of identity shifting from like within these chapters. And I feel like I've been this version of me for a long time. And when I look back on the chapter of where I was actually taking drugs and drinking and partying and stuff, that feels like a much shorter chapter for me, which is super interesting. So I wonder whether from a timeline perspective, how that feels for you. Do you feel like you've been this version of you? Does it feel like a longer stretch of time than it did when you were actually taking drugs and partying and doing all of that?
In a lot of ways it does, just because I'm so, days feel so full now, and I'm so much more conscious throughout the day and of my life in general. And so things are a little bit blurry with substances, and I had a lot of really, good times and, very valid experiences, but things are so much more colorful and so much richer now that it does feel like more. Life feels like more rather than feeling kind of like less, basically.
Yeah. Super interesting. I had a question that just popped into my mind and it sprung away. It was about... Come on, brain. That was a good one. I was excited to ask that. It's all right. It's going to come back.
It'll come back.
Yeah, it always does.
It'll come back if it's meant to be.
Exactly. That's what I say. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm not meant to ask that question if it's just dissolved
It's
out
possible.
of my brain. Yeah.
My favorite color is pink, if that was the question.
I already knew the answer to that.
Okay. So maybe that wasn't it.
I also agree with what you were saying before around having had like lots of really cool, fun experiences, like when taking drugs and partying and stuff. And when I reflect on those times and the connections that I made at those times, and like, I'd find myself like in someone's kitchen or laundry or fucking bathroom or whatever, and you're having a D&M with someone and you like open up and you share all of these amazing things and you like connect, and then it's like something weird would happen where it would be almost like the next day and it was almost like, oh, did that really mean anything? Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like the authenticity of that moment felt kind of subdued because there was drugs and alcohol involved. This is my experience anyway. And so what I've observed now, being sober and being able to connect with people, and I'm really an open book when it comes to sharing and going deep with people. I mean, it is the nature of the work that I do, so it feels really comfortable for me now. But it feels like the connection and that moment is maintained because it's been shared in sobriety for me personally. And I wonder how you feel about that. And yeah, whether you agree or whether you disagree with that.
Sure. It's just like, I think it feels like to me like a different frequency. So when you're partying like a rock star or living like a pirate, there's just things that happen. And one of those is like random conversations about nothing. And it's just like a different frequency. I don't think about it as bad or good for me. I think about it as I prefer my life now. Back then, that version of me probably didn't want to be always kind of like feeling like I'm spreading love and light and learning about what people have to say and connecting on a deeper level, even if it's with just random people that you're passing in the street. That person, that version of me probably wasn't able to access that. And so it probably felt good to just have company to a certain extent, have people around, be sharing things. I would often wake up from hangovers or from benders or from, long nights with random people, and something didn't feel good about that. I haven't thought about that much throughout my years sober. But I think that if I think about it now, I think it's something like, maybe that was kind of like God indicating to me that those experiences were not it for me. If things feel so good when you're on drugs and when you're drinking and all that stuff, and then when they go away, things feel particularly bad. Or they, used to, for me at least. I would have like a come down or a hangover or something like that, and I think that was kind of nature's way of like balancing it out, because those things are short-lived and external and only accessible via ingesting a substance. And so God knows how many random experiences and conversations and people I met that I don't remember. And it was fun and it was a great time. And eventually it wasn't, and I wanted something else for myself, really.
You said something interesting before. You were like, you don't think the version of you back then was able to access what you were describing as, I guess, to summarize, maybe like human connection. What do you think that is?
I think that I was very disconnected from myself. I don't know about young people in general, but my guess is that, as a child and as an adolescent and a teenager, you only have so much access to self-knowledge and self-awareness. What are the feelings that I want to feel in my body as far as feeling love, feeling expansion, warmth, all of these things that I now want. I probably wanted those things at that age too, but wasn't able to verbalize that, or maybe I thought the way to access those things was like by being in the cool kid group, or like they were more superficial and less grounded. And so I don't know, I think every person must reach clarity on the ways they want to feel and at a different point in their life, I guess. And for me, it was like sobriety was that moment. Just a couple days into the rehab center, I just was thinking like, basically like, this feels amazing. To just be feeling things, whether they're good things or bad things, and just kind of this feeling like, okay, bad experiences are going to contribute to growth and to learning, and good experiences are going to, make the journey, more enjoyable, and I can make other people's lives, I can spread joy and love and things like that when I feel them within myself. And so that was an exciting, thing to feel.
When you had the intervention, who like staged that intervention for you? What people in your life?
It was basically my mom and the owner of a farm that I manage.
Yeah. What was that like?
Honestly, I think I was really ready. I think it's relatively cloudy memory because I was probably on 3 to 5 different substances, like at the actual time of the intervention. But the way that I remember it and it's described to me is that I was initially a bit shocked and sad, as evidenced from like crying basically, and then just kind of really liked the idea and was explained the nature of it, and as far as like not having my phone, I have to pack my things, there's going to be therapists and 3 meals a day and going to do all this different work and stuff, and I just thought, that sounds amazing. That's what I need right now. I want my phone to be taken away. I want a consistent bedtime. I want to, it all sounded great. I was like, I was 33 years old. I just probably thought like, okay, I've got a lot of stuff that I probably need to work on, and I would like help doing that. And I probably hadn't taken really like a real vacation. I mean, my life was like kind of a vacation, but I was also like hustling quite a bit and like working on a lot of projects that I still work on now, actually, which is really lucky that they ended up working out. But I hadn't really taken a vacation either, so I was just like, instantly like that feels real. Like I love that idea, and that was really it.
That's amazing. Did you have thoughts in the lead up to that? Like, was there a point before the intervention where you ever had moments of, this has got to stop, or this isn't it, or this doesn't feel good anymore? Was there any of that, or were you kind of just like blissfully unaware?
Right.
Or just not willing to see it?
Yeah. I was, smart enough to realize some pretty obvious signs. I was like 16 and like crashed a car, which could have been a lot worse, but wasn't. There's like bar fights, things with like my romantic relationships, like things that would happen as a result of being drunk or high that were very unpleasant. And I knew it wasn't good for my body or my mind or my relationship with my family, things that were important to me. And I think I just kind of felt like it was the only way, basically. So maybe there was a bit of rationalization, like I'm going to stop at some point, or my life is still going to work out okay, despite all the negative feedback that I get from abusing substances. I think kind of a mix of like putting it off and rationalizing it, lying to myself a bit, like I'm going to be able to figure this out, and also just knowing like this has a very devastating impact, and bad things happen as a result of this habit, but feeling probably like just kind of stuck in it as well, starting to learn how to navigate life with alcohol and weed at such a young age. I kind of just developed a pattern and a bit of a reliance on it, even if it was just like a weekend habit for a lot of that time. And even if things were going pretty well outside of that, it was still like a weekly stress relief, or if there was some sort of social anxiety or something, then like, okay, socializing will be fun. And suddenly, everything is kind of connected to drugs and alcohol, really. And so I just kind of didn't realize how deep that was. Probably felt stuck in it, some avoidance.
Denial?
Just all the good things. Definitely a lot of denial.
It's pretty wild. Like when we look at our culture, it's so ingrained and it's so normal, right? Like I've definitely come from a background where it's normal, and it's how people connect, and it's how people de-stress, and it's the only way people can have fun and actually let their hair out, let their inner child, let their hair out, let their hair down, let their inner child out. And now that I'm on the other side of that, it seems fucking wild, and it's quite sad. I find it to be I feel sad for people that are existing in that box, because I do see it as a bit of a box. It's like, this is the only way that I can have fun. This is what I need at the end of the day to de-stress, or this is the way that I get courage to go on a date or to say the thing that I need to say to my partner. Like, it's pretty sad when you actually think about that some people are existing in that.
Yeah, it does feel sad to me, but I don't judge people for doing that stuff, and I'm not saying that you do. I think it's okay to feel badly for people who are.
It's like compassion.
Yeah, compassion, right? So there's a compassion energy, and I think that something I notice is like, even for people who are what's referred to as like social drinkers, meaning so like they drink a little bit when they go out to dinner, or when they, had a hard day, or if they're going to go to a party. I just wonder for those people, like how much growth is available to them if they were to do those things sober and kind of feel uncomfortable, and then go back and process it and kind of grow within that framework of sobriety, and be able to access higher levels of fun, of enjoyment, and like via self-love, all kind of while protecting your body, because like drugs and alcohol are not good for your body. No matter how you flip it.
Yeah, it's just bottom line, right? It's just not good for your body. Your body does not like it. I remember when we were first chatting about having this conversation, you spoke about self-loathing as well in, I guess, in connection to drugs and alcohol or addiction, or I'm curious if you could expand on that a little bit for us. And yeah, I'd love to explore that.
Yeah, I love that topic. I love that term, self-loathing. I think that I didn't realize that I was being self-loathing with substance abuse. And so I think of self-loathing as kind of like the opposite of self-love.
Yeah.
And I think of self-love as like the best feeling ever.
What does self-love look like for you?
Yeah, so self-love for me is about tending to all those 5 realms of health: spiritual health, physical health, social health, emotional health, mental health. It's about being compassionate for myself. It's about having a connection with God. And as a result, being able to show up fully for the people that matter most to me, and then also just strangers, and even like the collective unconscious of humanity, and Mother Nature itself. I think that God wants us to love ourselves so we can contribute to all of those things, and I think that self-loathing, I was like a pretty happy-go-lucky person while I was abusing substances. And so it wasn't like I was hateful or doing, bad things to people or to myself, or was like clinically depressed or something. But it was more like I didn't realize that I wasn't accepting so much about myself and sending this message like, you feel this way and that's not okay, and you need to take this substance in order to feel better or make that go away. And instead of saying like, okay, you feel scared, sad, uncomfortable, that is okay, and how would you like to integrate that? And so that's kind of what it feels like on the most base level.
Just like not honoring yourself.
Definitely not honoring myself. Definitely not honoring, the
potential of like who could be as well, right?
Yeah, future self. Definitely not honoring myself in the moment. Definitely not honoring the future version of myself, and just not taking seriously and what it is to just be alive, really. Like, it's such a gift to be born, and kind of in my case, it's like I was very close with I'm very close with my family, and not honoring the work and effort and love that like my family and people close to me were feeling, and kind of just it was definitely starting with me not honoring myself, but as a result, and also kind of a symbiotic thing was just not honoring anyone else either, really, even if it was just like not being present.
Yeah, that makes sense. So would you say that your, I guess, intervention and then time in rehab, was that an awakening of sorts for you?
I don't think of it as an awakening, but I think it definitely was. There was a lot of things that were awakened, in the most literal sense, like my senses were being awakened. And so I was just like feeling what it felt like to be a human in a lot of ways. There was so much numbing and hyperstimulation and cycles of substances. So much of my thoughts, and behavior was related to when the next party was going to be, or when am I going to like meet up with a dealer, and what am I going to do this day as it relates to substances. Just to kind of be was definitely an awakening, to sit with my thoughts, to breathe, to feel things, and kind of like remember them and build cohesion. It was all new, and so I guess in that way I would think of it as an awakening.
It's almost like it opened up so much for you, in the sense that it's like, you can even think of it in the terms of like, if you're in a relationship that's toxic or not great, or in like a relationship where you're infatuated and it takes up all of your energy and like your entire thought process is on this person. And then once that dissolves or dies, once that no longer exists in your reality, it frees up so much time and energy and space for other things to actually show up. And so I think for a lot of people, like if you're in a situation, whether it is a relationship or whether it is to do with substances, it's like, I wonder what would open up for you. Because like, while there is certainly a level of shedding and letting go of the old, and there can be grief that comes with that, you're also opening up some really exciting new doors, and maybe you can't see that right now.
Yeah, it's just it's like it's a great analogy, the toxic relationship thing.
I think a lot of people can relate to that one.
Yeah, since sobriety, I had a challenging relationship that I sometimes think of as toxic, although I like to think of myself as like a willing participant in that dynamic. And I try not to allow myself to kind of code it as toxic, but based on the way that people understand toxic, I would say that substances is very much like that. It felt like to me like, I was kind of stuck in something without even kind of realizing it. And, I think that's a big part about addiction, is like, it's a kind of like an obsession that you don't realize that you have. You kind of become I kind of became obsessed with something that wasn't really serving me, that I didn't really want actually. And it took going to rehab, and then since sober, with that, with the challenging relationship that I had, when I decided to leave that, I was getting a lot of feedback from friends and family, like it was probably not serving me, and it wasn't anything extreme, but it was just like, wasn't really going anywhere. There was a lot of negative things happening, really, and I wasn't able to step outside and see that. And once I did, I just felt a lot better. And similar to substances, it was like feeling a little bit of nostalgia and sadness at the time of something ending. But the dominant feeling was like expansion. And so for me, it was about a lot of like sitting with fear and confidence at the same time, or good and bad feelings, letting them both exist. And even if the good bit felt smaller at times, I just kind of knew that it would grow, and that was enough to not really focus on the negative, allow myself to feel the negative, but kind of like keep that bit of hope and faith that I was like aligned and on the right path.
Wow. What a journey, hey? Like life, the different seasons that we go through. It's honestly crazy.
Yeah, it's such a blessing. It's an amazing blessing to feel, whether they're good things or bad things. It's just, I like to thank myself for feeling all the time. When I'm feeling what we would code as negative emotions, as well as positive, I just like to say thank you for feeling to myself. And that is something that is really helpful for me.
And has that been something that you've learned to appreciate because there was a period of time where maybe you weren't feeling much?
Yeah, I was just not feeling as much because, there were chemicals in my body that were distorting feelings and producing their own feelings. And then even going into sobriety, like, it's been a learning process over the last 3.5 years to kind of feel feelings. And so taking drugs and alcohol out of the picture, it's still been a journey and still is a journey on kind of staying neutral. Like, so not focusing on being happy or sad. What I try to focus on and what I think feels the best to me is what I think is understood as like serenity or peace, or kind of like being neutral. I think that is what a lot of religions like Buddhism are saying when they're talking about things like enlightenment. It's kind of not about being happy. It's kind of like being aware and conscious no matter what's happening. So despite, like good or bad things happening, it's kind of just like staying in the middle, observing, feeling, and returning back to the center. Because I think for me, I can get, I'm pretty much always happy, and was when I was using drugs as well. I was pretty much happy all the time too. The lows would be low, but for me personally, they were always very short. And so feeling good is also something I need to be wary of. When I say good, I mean like happy, so something good happens, or if I'm getting, some kind of brain chemicals from a positive interaction with someone, it's easy for me to forget the next thing I'm supposed to be doing, or, suddenly I am letting myself off the hook for a different task, which requires more discipline and steady focus and calm to do. And I'm just leaning into good feelings, and then I'm chasing the next thing. And so even in sobriety, it's important for me to just feel things, let them go, and return to a neutral kind of like state of awareness.
Interesting. That's really cool. Wow.
Thanks. Thanks, Ellie.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. So if you could, I guess, picture little Graham, and it was so sweet. Like as you were describing him before, I was just like seeing little Ellie, and she was also chubby. She used to wear a beanie to school every day with her school uniform.
I remember you told me that
even on
once.
like hot days, right? And I was like, oh, these little kids. I wonder, like, what would you, if you could say something to him, like what would he have needed to hear?
I think that as we uncovered during like a healing session that we did with Ellie, that was like NLP and ECT. I think that what needed to come through is that I'm good enough. That would have been very helpful, and I'm still working on that. Is what we found, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was little Ellie's thing too. She just didn't feel good enough. And it's funny. It's like as we grow and we enter new stages of life, I like to think of life as a game, and we have different levels. And it's like we kind of complete this level or this chapter and it's like, yeah, I'm good enough. And then you go to the next one and it's like, oh, I get to, I guess, face that again, just on a different level. So I guess a good way to think about it could be like business. And it's like, okay, cool, my business is at this level. And then, okay, now I'm going on to this next level in business where maybe I'm now encountering competitors in the market. And then it's like, oh shit, there's the I'm not good enough feeling again. And it's like, oh, I've got to navigate that again at this level, right? So it's fun. It's like the core wound, and we get to keep experiencing it and like rediscovering who we are and meeting ourselves in new depths of recognition that it's like, I am good enough. It just keeps affirming.
Yeah, it's so helpful for me. It's just a good way for me to figure out how I want to approach any situation, kind of like the various situations that you were mentioning regarding work or regarding like how to structure an individual day or a training session at the gym. It's just so central, like really to the core, as you said. For me personally, it's just remembering that I'm good enough.
Amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's a fun journey we're on.
Yeah, it sure is. Hopefully not too fun. But you got to keep it right in the middle. Nice and neutral.
I don't necessarily agree with you in that one.
Yeah, you are good at fun, Ellie. Ellie is good at fun.
I think you are as well. You're great at fun.
I'm potentially too good at fun and don't get anything done.
That was like us last week. We came here to do this podcast and we just chatted for like 2.5, 3 hours and didn't even do it.
Well, the power did go out.
It wasn't meant to happen then.
No. Yeah, I think the power went out for a reason. And, and then we had fun with that and made the best out of that. And it was really like a very powerful experience for me, the treatment session there.
What have you noticed like since then?
Big one coming through is just that it is good for me to remember that I'm good enough.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not to really be too analytical with it. I think just the more I remember that and internalize that feeling in my body, the better the better I'm feeling and the more aligned I am and the more kind of flowy like my day is feeling.
What's it opened up for you?
I would say that it has opened up more expansion, more love, probably better performance, whether it's in the gym or with relationships or with myself. So really kind of like everything. And it's not like it's fully opened it up, but it's proven in just a few days of having integrated that to be a really useful tool. And I have zero doubt that it will continue to be a good tool. In fact, I think the more that I use that tool, the better, like from now until forever, pretty much.
That's so cool. Because it's kind of like when we start to dissolve these limitations or limiting beliefs, it opens up more doors of possibility for us, which is super, super cool. And so I was curious whether specifically around business, whether there was anything that you noticed to unfold after the session, whether anything's come up in your awareness around that.
Yeah. So for me personally, when I am living with the most amount of kind of self-love and alignment, everything is going better. So I'm getting better ideas. I'm faster, stronger, or, you know, better listener. It's like all of those tools are very helpful for me in my different, you know, my various business things. Like, I do things that are like creative and other things that are more like entrepreneurial, other things that are, you know, more cyclical, like farming. It's like the same thing in a lot of ways. And so it doesn't really matter what it is. Like, it's really helpful for me to be living in alignment with a lot of self-love, and that core wound that we identified of being good enough, whatever that means exactly. It feels like it speaks exactly to the issue, but it's really helpful to remember that, because it increases alignment and opens up more self-love, and performance across every possible metric is better in that regard.
I love that. Yeah.
Same. I'm good enough.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are.
Thank you, Ellie.
It's so cool in the sense as well, like when I reflect on the start of my journey and doing all of this work, and like specifically the unconscious change work. I remember a point in my life when I would think about, for example, like the love of my life and like getting married, and the idea, the picture that I had of that relationship. I just had these feelings of like, oh, you're never going to get that. Like it was just like this undercurrent of that's not for you. Even though like consciously I was like, that's what I want. It was just this deep feeling of nope. And then as I've peeled back the layers and I've dissolved the different beliefs, now it just feels like it's already done. And so we can look at that in all areas of our life when it comes to doing inner work as well. Like if you're looking at business things and it's like, oh, my business is going to make $500,000 this year, you know, like whether that feels good or not in your body is a clue. And if it doesn't feel good, then there's probably some deeper work that you need to do on yourself so that it does get to feel good, because it does, because ultimately we can have whatever we want. We just need to believe it. And there could be a belief that says like deep down that no, you can't have whatever you want.
Right. And it's almost like I am able to identify things that I actually do legitimately want when I'm coming from the perspective of I'm good enough.
Yeah.
Kind of like what you were saying, you know, if it doesn't feel good in the body, then that is a good indicator that, you know,
part of you doesn't believe it,
doesn't want it, you know, it wouldn't be good for me. And when I'm remembering that I'm good enough, when I'm living in alignment and, you know, with a lot of self-love and kind of like truth. Truth is a big thing too. You know, for me, it's really important to keep things super honest. It's easy for me to kind of convince myself that that I do want something that I actually don't, or that I can do something that, you know, there's actually certain steps required in order to access that thing, and it doesn't make sense for me to have right now. And the good enough thing just kind of brings, you know, really has a positive impact on alignment, self-love, and you know, kind of like self-awareness and self-honesty or truth, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And there are steps. Do you know what I mean? It's like there are steps that we need to do in order to get the thing that we want, right? Like you can't just think in your brain, oh, I want spaghetti bolognese for dinner tonight, and then expect it to be done within a second, within you clicking your fingers, right? Like you got to do the steps.
Yeah, like something that's coming to mind is like a month ago, I tried to squat 500 pounds. And my squat at that point in time.
How many kilos is that?
I don't know. Like maybe 250 or something. Or like between 200, 250. And so like I need to be able to squat like, you know, a little bit less than that first. And so I might want that and think, I kind of went in the gym and just find that I tried it or whatever. But there was like a little bit of disappointment when I didn't hit that. And I just kind of had to get, realigned and just kind of say like, okay, have to work up to that a little bit. And that felt better. There was like a trial, a failure, a little bit of humility. And so
it's like you had to become the person that could do it first.
Got to be the thing.
Yeah.
Like that's something I think about too. It's like being the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just like talking about the thing or wanting the thing, but just literally being the thing. Like, so in my case, it's like being the thing that is good enough.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about like wanting to attract the ideal partner or, business success or social media growth, whatever it is, you can't just time travel to the end destination. Like you've got to become it. And there's a journey. There's a journey of growth in all of that.
There really is. And it's a lot of it for me is like spiritual growth that kind of radiates outward. And so something like, identifying like a core limiting belief, like I'm not good enough, is like a step that unlocks a lot of other steps, and makes more clear what the steps are. And, is just the kind of spiritual healing and spiritual health component. I can't emphasize enough, like how big that is for me, like going in the rehab center, remembering like to love myself, this is like something very off for me. Prior to that was like enjoying life, doing drugs, and living, primarily in self-loathing, and just kind of like, for me, that fits into the spiritual health category. And, like the being enough thing. It's like, it's hard to say exactly what that feels like, but it feels good, on like deep down.
Does it feel lighter?
Definitely feels lighter and like more grounding at the same time.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like everything good at once, really.
Yeah.
It's how I would describe a lot of different spiritual health stuff.
It's like you've put something down that you didn't realize was so heavy. And in a sense, it's created space. It's created expansion and possibilities. It's created a sense of lightness and almost like liberation, while also feels deeply grounding, like this is who you were always meant to be. This is who you are at your core. You just had some, almost like a little parasite stuck to you. you had something latched onto you that wasn't actually the truth.
Yeah, I think all of that makes a lot of sense. It feels like all that and more.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
What would you? I think we'll round things up now, and I guess no. I'd be curious, and I'd love for you to share. Like, what would your one piece of advice be to someone who's maybe feeling a little bit stuck in life where they're at right now, whether it's to do with relationship or drugs, alcohol addiction, career, inspiration? What's something that you could offer them that would maybe feel supportive?
I think just, to love yourself and figure out what that looks like for you. And if you are not sure what that is, then, you can type into AI, and I really like Claude. I recommend this to people, is just ask, the AI platform of your choice for a list of things that can help you increase self-love, basically.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just start playing with those.
Yeah, just do them. Becoming honest about what self-love is and what is not contributing to that in your life, and what is.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe there's like a little bit of, like you said, a little bit of reflection of like what doesn't feel good. Maybe getting rid of that. And if you don't know what feels good, use AI and just start experimenting and see what feels good.
Yeah, just practicing leaning into what feels good and like truly good.
And what feels good in your body, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. Thanks,
Same.
G.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks, G.
Thanks,
Grazzy.
Ellie.
Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.